Real people, real opinions, Real Talk Radio. The multi-award winning Niall Boylan Show.
Ireland's classic hits.
As usual, we always like to have an exciting and unusual guest after 11 o'clock. Jane tells me nothing about it until I'm handed a script about 10 minutes beforehand, because that's the way I like it to be. But if you are prudish, I'd advise you to switch off. Don't be telling them to switch off, Jane. Did you write that down? Anyway, Alice Lovegood, and I mentioned her name earlier on, and I think what a wonderful name, by the way, because I said earlier on, that would be a great DJ name. What's your name? Alice Lovegood. Anyway, she's a sex educator, life coach, and a spicy creator online. She's passionate about exploring the realms of sex education, how to be better at sex, kink, intimacy, and body confidence. And through her work, she aims to help the world have more, safer, and better sex. Sounds good to me. And Alice joins me on the line. Alice, good evening to you. How are you?
Hello, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, and I have to say, I'm loving that last bit. Through your work, you aim to help the world make more, safer, and better sex. So, what's happening to the world? Are we losing interest in sex? Are we not as good as we should be? Are we not enjoying it as much as we should be?
No, I don't think so. I think there's a real eagerness, and I've definitely found that from what I do, to kind of discover more, learn more about ourselves, about others, and I feel like we're kind of on a brink of a change, really, in how we view sex and intimacy in relationships, and I think it's really exciting.
I remember, of course, if you go back right to the end of the 1960s and 70s in America, the sexual revolution, as they called it, when porn movies became a big thing. Deep Throat was the first major porn movie that changed the world, the way people viewed sex. And then here in Ireland particularly, 50 Shades of Grey, that brought in a whole new kink to people in relation to bondage and submission and all that, and dominatrix and all that kind of stuff. And do you think we're starting to explore ourselves sexually a little bit better now than we would have, say, 10, 20 years ago?
Yeah, definitely. Although I don't necessarily think it's more. I think it's just more talked about and more accessible because we have things like social media, and what was hidden behind closed doors and secret before is much more open and discussed now.
And in relation to pornography, what role does that play? And I know you talk about ethical pornography, which is because pornography can have, some of it can be quite shady and dodgy, but some of it's quite ethical as well. When you talk about ethical pornography, maybe explain that to people what you mean by ethical pornography.
So essentially, I think a lot of modern porn, there's no interaction with that creator and ability to know that person is consenting, that there's no view of the consent, the discussion, the dynamic, the pauses, the lube, I'm not sure I like that, the aftercare, and that's all the bits that I like to include in my content, and just real orgasms, not like
fake ones.
Somebody touched my toe and I'm going to the high heaven.
Because all the women of Ireland are looking at the porn going, why don't I have an orgasm when a bloke does that to me? Because they're not having an orgasm, love. They're just not having one. They're faking it.
Yeah, and it's not fair on either person, because, a lot of men are then lulled into this belief that they should be able to make a woman come from penetration, and actually, only 20% of women can come from penetration alone. And so I think we're doing a disservice to the public by, showing them not real sex, essentially.
And by the way, I do believe that people can become objectified in pornography, and primarily women. But I think we seem to forget about men too, because men become objectified because realistically men have a high expectation. If a woman is watching porn all the time, she thinks that men can hold erections for an hour and a half. She thinks that men have these, when they orgasm, this massive amount of semen, which usually isn't the case in a lot of cases. A lot of that is faked as well. They think that men can orgasm over and over again, which they can't, generally speaking, unless they're very good at it. So, there is an unusual expectation of men too, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. And, they think that men have these huge, massive, straight penises with no
perfect
and I think
chiseled.
Men as well are over obsessed with the penis because of porn. They think that that's like the be all and end all, and that, you know, there's so much. Sex doesn't even have to include a penis to be sex and to be enjoyed. So
I wouldn't like it to be. I wouldn't like the poor old penis to be ignored during the whole thing.
let's not ignore it, but it's not like the pinnacle, you know.
No, of course not. There's a lot of other intimacy and touching going on as well. And I suppose for a lot of people, maybe, you know, who are in a relationship, who are married, who've been with each other a long time, sometimes it can be difficult to talk. So communication is the key, isn't it? By saying to your partner, well, you know, how about we try this? Or would you like to do that? And, you know, and if they don't like it, well, sure, well and good. But it's communication is the key, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the main thing is communication. And that's what I hope to do with my content, is to inspire communication, or even give an opportunity to communicate without words, like send a video and say, what do you think about this? Do you want to try this? And I just think that is something that we are massively struggle with as a society, is the ability to feel confident, to talk without fear, to not worry about how we're going to be judged for our fantasies or our, like, you know, want to explore.
Yeah. And both women and men, obviously, the body confidence part of it is a big thing too. You know, for a lot of couples, it's kind of lights off, under the covers, you know, and they're kind of afraid to show their own naked bodies to each other because maybe they feel a bit of shame or something about their size, their shape, their penis size, breast size, or whatever it is. And those things, we need to get over those things and move past them, don't we?
100%. I think we've just grown up in a society that loves to sell us a solution to problems that don't even exist. You know, creams to get rid of cellulite or tablets to make you skinnier. And the reality is, from my experience of hundreds of thousands of people now, that they see what they love about you, and there's someone out there for everyone, every body type. And
absolutely,
really, we just need to fall in love with ourselves. You know, I say to a lot of people to look in the mirror and pick out the bits that you love and thank your body for what it does for you. And we have this beautiful ability to feel pleasure, and it's such a shame that we stifle that because of how we feel about ourselves.
That's what I can't understand when I hear people who are married a long time and don't have sex anymore, or maybe have it, you know, you often hear people saying birthdays and Christmas, and I'm going, that's not good to you. Anyway, but when I hear people say that, I say, you have this wonderful part of your body, these wonderful pleasure zones in your body, and you don't use them. Why? But there's so many people, you know, who don't. Or maybe one party in the relationship is just not into it anymore. And that can be so upsetting for the other party.
100%. I think, but we're just not taught, like, about arousal in general. Like, there's different ways that we feel aroused, and sometimes how our partner gets aroused is different to how we get aroused. Many women are responsive in their desire, whereas most men are spontaneous. And sometimes when there's like a mismatch, it ends up just clashing and not understanding each other, and those communications channels are shut down, and it just means we're all unsatisfied and not feeling that pleasure and that beautiful intimacy and connection that we can have with one another.
And what do you say to, you know, somebody who says, look, my partner just, her libido is gone, she doesn't seem interested in having sex, I've tried the date nights, I've done all the usual stuff, and they're just not interested anymore. What do you say to them, or what advice would you give them?
So a couple of things would be to, you know, if you had good sex before, what was happening then that's not happening now? You know, have you had a child and actually she's exhausted and wearing a manky t-shirt and not feeling beautiful, or she's just absolutely knackered, and maybe those things need to be relieved before she can even think about intimacy? Or, you know, were you going on those date nights? What was happening when you had good sex that's not happening now? And then the other thing is, I think when we've been with our partner for a long time, it just becomes an act that we do, and we half feel entitled to it. Whereas when we're first with someone, you know, we have an expectation of sex, and we might be not booking it in as such, but we're going on that date and we're expecting to have it. So we'll have a nice bath and make ourselves feel pretty and put makeup on or wear a suit or make an effort. And I think a lot of the time it's that effort that goes, and all the other rubbish that comes with life just, pushes our brake and stops us connecting because, we've got bills to pay and we're tired and, John from down the road has pissed us off. So I think it's all actually thinking about it and making time for it and talking to one another and thinking about what was exciting before that we're missing now.
And do you think people nowadays, are we more adventurous when it comes to sex? Rather than just, missionary and do it for Ireland. Are we a little bit more adventurous about how we're performing sex in relation to, say, oral sex, anal sex, all the different types of sex? Are we more adventurous?
I don't necessarily think we are. I mean, if you look at history, there's a famous person who was writing fart letters about kink in the ancient history, and there's all sorts of. We've always been kinky and naughty, and it's just a little bit more open now, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think where social media is so popular, if someone pops up on your phone talking about, I don't know, oral sex or anal sex, then you're like, oh, I wouldn't mind trying that, and then you're more likely to engage in it. It's just a more awareness of what's happening, but we've always been experimental. I think that's just human nature.
And when it comes to, say, toys in the bedrooms and couples using toys, is that a no-no, or does that sometimes diminish the intimacy between two people and body contact? Should that be avoided at all costs, or is it a good thing to be using toys?
It's an amazing thing to use toys. I'm a massive advocate for toys. It's hugely improved my own sex life with my husband. Lots of people, women or people with vulvas, cannot orgasm with internal stimulation. They need that external stimulation. I can't even make myself come without a toy. So, to expect a partner to be able to is a bit silly. And it can be fun, and I was talking to my partner the other day about how, sometimes you don't want penetrative sex, but you want to play and be intimate and explore. And it provides this opportunity for almost like an adult playground. You can have paddles, you can have bondage gear, or you can have vibrators. It's fun. It's just an opportunity to play as adults, and I think that's really amazing.
And is it important that, for every session that you have, you and your partner or whoever it is that you happen to be with, is it important that both people have an orgasm?
No, it's not. It's not necessary, but it is important that it's considered. Like, it shouldn't be like, oh, it doesn't matter, but at the same time, it doesn't need to happen to be able to have beautiful, amazing sex.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that it needs to be thought about. Like, if you ask her, oh, do you think you can orgasm, or do you want to? Make an effort that it's a priority, but you can have incredible sex without an orgasm, and sometimes the pressure to orgasm makes it way more difficult to actually reach that orgasm.
I mean, there is quite a lot of women who can't have an orgasm, who don't have orgasms, which is quite sad. Do you believe a lot of those women could have orgasms if they were with the right person?
Yeah, I do think so. But at the same, if they can't make themselves orgasm, and they've had information and education and support to be able to do that themselves, and they still can't, then there might be something medically going on. And I think it's called anorgasmia, and it is a condition. But generally, I just think that we're not taught how to pleasure ourselves or others. It's not something that it's something that's really hidden, and therefore, I know lots of people that have said, "Oh, I don't even know if I've had an orgasm," and then I've been like, "Right, let's go get a vibrator."
I'll let you know. Yeah. And what about multiple orgasms? Because they see this in the porn movies, where girls have multiple orgasms. Is that common, or is that difficult to do?
Not in my experience for women. If you know how to make her come, then you know how to make her come again and again. It's just like stimulation in the same area carried on.
Mm.
But yeah, so like personally, I've never. That's something, you know, if I'm gonna play on my own, I'll probably go like 3 times in a row. It's just easy peasy once you get going.
Okay.
But,
Once you know which bit to do, yeah.
yeah.
And I know, by the way, speaking of ethical porn, your OnlyFans is really popular, and you're on OnlyFans yourself. And you know, I don't get the attraction of OnlyFans. By the way, there's a storyline. I don't know whether you're a Coronation Street fan. I am. I'm not ashamed to admit it. But there's a storyline at the moment where there's a guy on their version of OnlyFans, and he's, you know, putting up naked pictures of himself, etc., and how people kind of get taken in by it. And not everybody makes money. Some people do make money. Some people make no money on it. But I mean, do you think OnlyFans, it does have a stigma, doesn't it?
It depends who you talk to. Like, I generally surround myself with people who are like-minded, so I don't get to hear as much of the stigma. But I personally think it's a massive movement in porn, and especially for women, because it provides that consent aspect. There's a conversation had with the creator, and sometimes people come on and they'll, you know, for example, they'll call me a name, and I say, I'm able to say, you can't call me that without my permission. Like, you're not, and it gives an opportunity for that discussion and that consent aspect that isn't there in normal porn.
So you're in control, essentially.
Yeah, and obviously, again, you know, you're in control as an OnlyFans creator. You're getting the money. You're in control of what you do and don't create. There's a lot less pressure from producers and things like that, and it encourages connection in porn. Obviously, it's still online, but there is a level of connection rather than just seeing something.
And are you on OnlyFans on your own, or do you have your partner on it with you, or is it just solo?
Yes. So I do a little bit of everything. But I do a lot with my partner, and then I also do content with other girls as well.
And are you making money? I mean, is that a myth that all these girls are making a tremendous amount of money? Are you making money?
Yeah. So, you know, in August I made 65 grand. So I'm making a decent.
Jane, get on to my agent immediately. I've just changed careers. I'm taking my clothes off.
Take my referral code. And
I think they'd pay me to put my clothes back on again, to be honest with you, Alice. So 65,000 in 1 month.
Yeah, it's very exciting. It was my best month ever.
Wow.
It's kind of crazy, yeah.
So that's guys, assumingly, mainly guys. There will be girls as well, but mainly guys paying you X amount of money per month just to see, you know, you naked or you having sex.
Yeah, and to talk to me, and many of them are on there because of the sex education that I do, and I think a lot of guys, they have questions, but they don't know where to go for these answers. So I've kind of provided that opportunity where, you know, I'm, you know, pretty enough girl, and I'm kind, and I'm not going to judge you, and so a lot of guys are like, oh, finally I can ask the questions I have. You know, is my dick too small? Does it matter that it's curved? How do I make a woman come? And there's so many people that have these questions, and now they have somewhere to ask with someone that's not going to judge them. And they get a bonus.
And do they? Oh yeah, well, of course. So they go on and they'll ask you how to make a girl orgasm, and then you'll give them a little demonstration, I'm assuming, or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've got like how to anal, how to make a woman come, an anatomy lesson. I've got you know, how to dirty talk, how to feel confident in the bedroom. Me and my partner do a lot of sub-dom scenes, so we'll show like how to create a scene, how to ask for consent, where to impact play, where you can hit on the body, where you can't hit, how to communicate intensity, and it's just sex education you wish you could have with actual real people.
Yeah, I get you. No, I get you. I understand why that would be going. And the typical clients you're getting now, I'm assuming you don't know too much about them, but are they married men? Are they single men? So in other words, are they saying things to you like, listen, you know, my wife is not interested, won't do this, or how do I approach her and get her to do this because she doesn't really want to do it? Or is that the kind of stuff you get asked?
Sometimes. So there's a few different reasons why people subscribe. So one is they have a really different kink or fetish that they can't access content for very easily. For example, I've got someone who has a fetish for trainers without socks, or
Trainers without socks.
Yeah, that's what gets them going. So there's, and then there's, or like a whoopee cushion. There's someone who likes you to blow up a whoopee cushion and sit on it again.
What? And do you sit on it naked or just sit on it?
Sit on it. A fetish often is the actual thing, and it's very specific, and you don't even need to be being sexual for them to be aroused by their fetish.
I don't understand how somebody gets aroused by somebody wearing a pair of Skechers or whatever it is with no socks on. I don't know how that's even a sexual thing. That's bizarre.
Well, it's not. That's what a fetish is. It's a kind of non-normative sexual
kink.
Obsession almost. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the other reason people subscribe is for that connection. They can't really get off on porn alone. They need that talking, or they want you to look at them, or they might be lonely and they just want to talk. And
what's the maddest thing you've been asked to do, Alice?
Okay, so the craziest one was for me to dress up as the Blue Charlie in the Chocolate Factory, because I was pregnant at the time, so
you looked like you were inflated.
I had a big belly, and they had an inflation thing, so I had to paint myself blue and be like, "I'm so huge, I can't move. You're going to have to roll me down the stairs."
And did they pay you? But they had to pay you very well for you to paint yourself blue.
Yeah, that was £1,000 I got off that one. That was
£1,000.
Fun.
I would paint myself any colour you wanted for £1,000. Jane, my producer? Jane, are you listening to this? Jane, would you paint yourself blue naked for €1,000? Yeah, she would. Yeah, she just said, yeah, she would. Yeah. See, there's so many girls, particularly, would go on OnlyFans. And I've spoken to girls that I've worked with in the past. They said they would go on OnlyFans if they could cover their face, because it's all about. They don't want to be seen. And I wanted to ask you this question, and if you don't want to answer, that's fine. I understand completely. But you are a mum and you have got children. How would you feel if one of your children, when they get older, decide they want to go on OnlyFans? Would you be happy about that?
So I wouldn't, it's their life, their choice, their body, as long as they had all the information available to make that autonomous choice for themselves, then I would fully support them in anything they chose to do in their life.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's a fair answer. And do they know, by the way, how old are your children now? Or, well, you don't have to tell me their ages, but do they know you're doing it? Are they aware of it?
So I have two little ones that would have no idea. Little, but then I have an older one who's just turned 10, and he's aware that I'm a sex educator.
Okay.
But he and I'll tell him in a way that's
in an appropriate, a child appropriate way. Yeah. I get you.
But I'm very open and honest, and I'm not ashamed of what I do, and I want them to be part of the solution, not the problem, and be confident as they grow. So, as long as it's in an age-appropriate way, I'd never hide what I do.
Well, look, it's been wonderful talking to you, Alice. It's lovely talking to somebody who's so open and who can talk about it. And if people want to go on, by the way, they can go on to OnlyFans, or they can go on. I'm assuming you have an Instagram page and everything they can go to.
Yeah, so my Instagram is bettersx.blog, and I do sex education content on there, and I also have a blog where I write, lots of sex education information, and then my OnlyFans is as Alice Lovegood, if you wanted to see the more naughty stuff.
Oh, yeah. So if anyone wants to see Alice in the nip, you can go to... I'm just saying it as it is, Alice. Alice Lovegood, by the way. If you just do a Google for her anyway, I'm sure you'll find her on OnlyFans. Or betterfx.blog is it on Instagram?
BetterFX, yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry. And you can go on there on Instagram.
I can't write sex on Instagram.
Okay, so Better Essex, yeah.
That's it, yeah.
Okay, .blog. If you want to go onto Instagram, you'll find her on there. Alice, it's been lovely talking to you. Listen, thank you very much indeed for sharing your private moments. Well, it's not really that private, to be honest. It's just quite public. So thank you very much indeed for sharing that all with us. And it's been very interesting talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Real people, real opinions. Real Talk Radio. The multi-award winning Niall Boylan Show.